Hi, I'm Brad Thor, New York Times bestselling author of the new thriller, Blacklist, and I'm here with my good pal,
Armand Schultz, and I'm the narrator of the audiobook of the new Brad Thor thriller, Blacklist.
By the way, if you haven't seen or actually listened to the interview that Army and I did on Full Black, you definitely should check it out on the audiobook. But we wanted to do this again, and it's great to see you.
It's great to see you.
I got some questions I didn't get to ask you last time that I want to talk about.
Oh, good, good. And I have some for you as well. I literally am fascinated by the plot ideas that you get. Now, this one on Blacklist is a little bit different, I think, than the previous ones. It's not so much a military attack in terms of stuff overseas or whatever, but it's internal to the United States, and I just wondered where you get that idea from, or where you get your ideas from.
It's a great question. I'm trying now to pretty much plant my flag and take control of this domain that has been called faction, where this stuff is probably one of the biggest compliments I get is people reading my books with their laptop open. Right. Saying, I can't believe, he must have made this up, and then they go in and they Bing it or whatever. I was fascinated. Frank Church, a Democrat senator in the 70s, had looked into kind of our burgeoning intelligence capabilities in the U.S. Right. And he had gone on Meet the Press, August 17, 1975, and talked about what he had learned, but he left the American people with a very dire warning, saying that this is back in 75, that the NSA, if they ever took their giant listening ears and turned them inward on America, their capacity to listen to every single thing going on, this is over 30 years ago, meant that if this country ever started tilting towards tyranny, you'd never be able to create a resistance, because the government can hear and know everything that's going on. And I was fascinated by this, and I said, okay, reminded me a little bit of 1984 and that
Big
kind
Brother.
of thing. Yeah, and I looked into it, and I found, oh my gosh, it's not only just the monitoring, but there are all these corporations that are developing technology trying to figure out the way you're thinking, kind of Minority Report.
Right.
And so every book is different. It's this kind of, I'm in the shower and the idea hits me, but this one, the more I dug into it, and this was probably one of the hardest books I've ever written, because it was like drinking from a fire hose. So much info.
To research, or to get the information
to get my
where
arms
you can
around
fictionalize it or not fictionalize it?
Both. To get my arms around the whole idea, and then to figure out what I'm going to put in, what I'm going to leave out. Right. You know, I'm not going to say it's a similar issue that you have, but so that's what I deal with as the author. What I want to know, how do you keep, I got to keep track of all these plot points and everything. How do you keep track of the characters when you're doing the voices?
Well, it's one of those things where you go through, luckily I have a great producer, Karen Perlman, who does.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's phenomenal. So I've done all the books with her. And we have we sort of have a non-verbal, verbal communication when we're recording. If she doesn't like something, she goes, wait, let's do that again.
Doesn't involve hand gestures,
no,
does it?
No,
Okay.
she's in my ear while we're doing the whole thing, and she's terrific. So what we usually come upon is, before we start the book, we'll go through the main characters, whether they've been repeated from another book or not. So obviously Scot's repeated. Some of the Athena team members are repeated. Scot's boss, if that happens to be in the book, we go back and say, all right, who do we have to carry through from the last book? If you're a reader of or a listener to a lot of his books, you want to have some continuity to who those characters are. They can't all of a sudden be somebody else. And then we go through and say, all right, who's the new villain? All right, what do we want to do with him so he's recognizable, or her? Pick out that voice depending upon a regionalism or who that person is or whatever, and do they have cohorts? What do they do? And so we sort of set that out prior to recording. The trickier ones are obviously if there's multiple female roles. You know, I can only do so much vocally. But a lot of times what we find for them is, like the Athena team members, they all have a little bit of a regionalism. And in this book, without giving anything away, one of them's from the South, one of them's from Chicago. So that flavors them a little bit. And then luckily, when we have the script in front of us, there's points along the side of the script that let me know when a character's coming up.